Yeah, just put a
Sounds
reminder.
good. Yep, sounds good. Easier, no questions.
No, they'll join. Usually, it's like they're little. Yes, Rohit. So we are now streaming live, so we can get started. Rohit.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Wishing you all a very happy new year. May you have a wonderful Krishna conscious year ahead. Today we are going to discuss Īśopaniṣad, and we are going to talk about mantra 3. So we'll quickly get started here. I'll start with a prayer and then we can get into the subject matter. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Dam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वैशेषिकदासतिकारीति नामिने नमः प्रशशीलाय प्रभुपादानुसारिणे आनन्दित हृदय तस्मै शास्त्रभाजं चोदिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे I would like to offer my respectful obeisances to my Gurudev and to all Vaishnavas like you. So, as I was mentioning earlier, today we will be discussing Śrī Īśopaniṣad Mantra 3. If you like anything that I say, all the credit goes to my Gurudev. Any mistakes that I make, they are all mine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I see a couple of guests have joined, and I'm not sure if you were already part of the previous sessions on Īśopaniṣad where the speaker discussed the invocation mantra, the mantra 1 and mantra 2. But if you were part of that group and if you had participated in that discussion, then if you can just quickly show me a thumbs up from the reactions, and that will help me know that you are familiar with the subject topic. Are you able to? Yeah, great. I see one thumbs up. All right. So what we'll do is we'll just do a quick refresher so that we are current in our minds when we are talking about the mantra 3. So what is the completeness principle? At the very beginning in the invocation mantra, you would read about the completeness principle. So what is completeness principle? Basically, it's nothing more but it says that Krishna is perfect and complete. That is the completeness principle. And you can analyze that he is complete in relation with his wealth, beauty, fame, knowledge, strength, renunciation, ugliness. Ugliness? You are probably thinking, what is the speaker talking? How can he equate Krishna with ugliness? That just does not sound correct. But then, what is death? Isn't that the ugly part? Death is something that nobody wants to see, but yet everybody has to everybody has to face it. Just go and ask all the demons who were annihilated by Krishna. They saw him as death personified. So in spiritual world, even the ugliness enhances the relationship with each other. Why? Because that emanates from Krishna, and he is all complete. So if the living entity brings Krishna in the center of his life, then he will experience completeness, and he will experience all forms of completeness. But if he takes Krishna away from his life, then he will experience all forms of incompleteness. So then what is Ishavasya principle? I mean, this is the key theme that is going to go through all the shlokas. When you're part of this series, you will hear Ishavasya principle keep coming back again and again and again. So what is Ishavasya principle? So Ishavasya principle basically says that, Krishna is the proprietor of everything. Everybody needs to accept that what is allocated to them and what is their quota. If you do, then you can aspire to live for about hundreds of years. There is no stopping from you if you are living as per the Ishavasya principle. And Srila Prabhupada, he gives various examples of, the examples of quota. For example, we can move on to the next slide. Like cow, she gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, but her milk is designated as food for human beings. Human beings are not meant to quarrel like cats and dogs. They must be intelligent enough to realize the importance and aim of life. So there are more examples, but I'm just going to stop at this too. So it basically explains the concept of quota. As a human, as a devotee, we must consider we should be offering everything for the Lord's service and partake only of the remnants of the food that is offered to the Lord in form of prasadam. So how is human life distinct from an animal life? The main thing about human life is human life has responsibility. In animal life, there is no responsibility. Humans accumulate karma when they do certain actions, but animals, they don't get any karma. They are just burning off karma, but they do not incur any karma. They incur no sin for any of the activities that they do. And some of these animalistic activities we can see over there, like eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. There is no sanctity in their eating. There is no sanctity in the mating or sleeping or defending. They quarrel and snarl at each other. And the main thing in human life, the message of Godhead can be delivered. So humans can perceive that message, and they can understand that message, and they can change their behavior accordingly. That similar messaging cannot be delivered to animals. So there are other things also mentioned over here. Main thing over here, disregarding the law of nature, the humans will incur sin. But there is, as I was saying earlier, there is no sin in question of animals. They just do not incur any. So what is the root of all sin? The root of all sin is deliberate disobedience. It is disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. And that's when, the living entity starts getting into sinful habits. So how would you categorize, work done in Ishavasyan conception? If you ask that question, then that's based off the karma or the akarma. So if we are going to look at what is karma, vikarma, and akarma very briefly, karma says that, karma is basically all the prescribed duties which has a pious reaction, but it keeps a living entity in the cycle of birth and death. Vikarma is non-prescribed. It's prohibited, and it's all the sinful activities which which gives a negative reaction. And akarma is devotional, devotional activity or devotional service which does not have any reaction. It does not produce any reaction. So that's the definition of karma, vikarma, and akarma. Now, why everybody desires to live as long as possible? Because that's a very intrinsic nature of the spirit souls. As we are eternal beings, that intrinsic quality comes out. What happens when the greatest danger of life and how one becomes trapped? Is there a way out? Yeah, the greatest danger of life is, losing or forgetting Krishna, and then that causes a fall down to the lower species of life. And the only way out is to again build your attachment to Krishna and remain in that akarma, in the akarma state of devotional life. That's what is suggested by the acharyas. So if you look at the invocation mantra and then the mantra 1 and mantra 2, you can categorize it in a group of words. Like for example, the invocation mantra, that is the principle of completeness. That is how you can categorize it. Mantra 1, that is the Ishavasya principle. And that's a very important mantra. You all should try to memorize that if you have not done already. Then mantra 2, that is accepting your quota and the benefit. And then the mantra 3 is what we are going to do today. So I'll briefly recite the mantra. If you would just like to follow on, that would be great. But I'll recite. Asurya namate loka andhena tamasa vrita tamste pretya bigachanti yeke chatma hanojana. Asurya namate loka andhena tamasa vrita tamste pretya bigachanti yeke chatma hanojana. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So let's break this mantra down one line at a time. Asuryanam te loka means the world are called the abode of the demoniac. Andhena tamasa vrita means those are covered by darkness of ignorance. Avrita means covered. And what are they covered? Andhena, which is darkness, and tamasa, which means ignorance. Tamste pretya, those worlds after death. Abhigachanti means one will attain. And who will attain that? Sorry, and who will attain that? The one who are covered in the ignorance. Those are the kind of people who will attain that kind of attain that kind of world. They will go to the dark abodes. So if you look at this verse holistically, you can sense that it is a warning for us. If one lives in a soul-killing way, then it is very assured that that person will go to a world of darkness. If one decides to live without awareness of one's spiritual responsibilities or spiritual nature, and we are not taking off our spiritual responsibilities because one decides to live ignorantly, they will fall further into a deeper ignorance in future. This verse talks about what will happen if you choose to live in disharmony with the Ishavasya principle. It's like a parent, telling their child that if you will fail, if you do not study, you will fail, and if you fail, you will have no future, you will have no money, you'll live life in poverty, ignominy, and basically suffer in your life. Similarly, devotees, they will go out and educate people that if you do not surrender to the Lord, if you don't follow the Ishavasya principle, and you don't accept the Lord's proprietorship, then you will suffer the consequences. Our goal should be to cultivate more Sura-like qualities. And that is what we are going to discuss a little bit further. So the picture on the left, that's the picture of Mrigari. You would have heard about his story from Srimad Bhagavatam. He was a hunter and he took pleasure in torturing animals and half killing them. He was not even fully killing them. He was he was causing them a lot of suffering. He thought he was doing his best, being dutiful and a responsible householder. He was providing food for his family by killing these animals. While there might be some truth to this, but he was breaking the Ishavasya principle left, right, and center. And so many levels he was breaking this principle. Like, half killing animals, who've heard of that? People kill animals to not inflict too much of pain on them, but he was doing the opposite. One day, Narad Muni saw him, and out of his kindness and compassion, he stopped him. He educated him on the dangerous reactions he would have to incur. Uh, he told Mrigari that he would be born as an animal and he would have to suffer the same pain. And then, as the story goes back, Murugari goes back to his family and he asks them if they would be partaking in his karma. And his family says no. I mean, Mrigari got a big reality check there and there itself. Uh, while his family wanted to enjoy on his hard work, but they were not ready to take his karma. And nobody, you can't share your karma with anybody like that. Whatever actions you do, you have to incur the karma by yourselves. So he came back to Narad, and then uh, Narad Muni, he instructed him to break his bow, and he instructed him to live by the Ishavasya principle, worship a Tulsi plant, and then chant Hare Krishna mantra. And paying heed to these instructions, Mrigari, he started depending on the Lord to maintain his life and maintain his family. Then, after many years, Narad Muni and Angira Rishi, they came to visit him, and they were shocked to see him that he was not even willing to kill the ants on the pathway. The picture on the right is basically depicting that scene, that when Narad Muni and Angira Rishi came, he was trying to move the ants away, thereby, he was not killing them. So this is the so if you can see, from killing the animals to not killing even an ant, this is a transformation of earlier not following the Ishavasya principle to following the Ishavasya principle. This is one example. So as I was talking earlier about the Sura and the Asura, the literal meaning of Asura means like demon, but it has other meanings as well. If you break the word Asu and Ra, Asu means breath and Ra means Ramante, or to enjoy. In Bhagavad Gita 2.11, Krishna, it takes he uses the word Asu with the context of breath, and there is a shloka which says Gata asumscha agata asumscha nanu shoshanti panditaha, means one who's, sorry, I think I skipped a slide over here. So, which means one who one whose life air has gone away, or one whose life air has not gone away. Krishna says that a wise person does not lament on either of those situations. So Asura is one who enjoys the life air, or who wants to enjoy the body in a godless, sensuous, materialistic way. I mean, that is what I can put as a definition. But Asura is just not a species. It is also a mentality. How, you would probably ask? So let's take a look at a scenario. Like during Ramayana, the war was between humans and demons. So one party human, one party demon. It kind of matches, and there's no questions over there. But wait a minute. In Mahabharata, the war was between humans and humans. Given that there was a Rakshas here and there on both sides, on the Kaurava side there was Ghatotkach, and on the Pandava side there was Ghatotkach, and on the Kaurava side there was Alambush. He was the relative of Bakasur, and he had joined Duryodhan. So give a Rakshas here and there, but majorly the battle was fought between humans. But Parantu, did the fighters on Duryodhan's side of body had bodies of demon. They didn't. But did they have the asuric or the demoniac tendency or the mentality? And I'm very sure you would agree almost like 500% that yes, all of the people on the other side, the Kauravas, they had a demoniac mentality. So Asura is not just in physical form with fangs coming out from here, horns coming out from the head. It can also be a mentality, and it can be possessed by human beings also. So I'm just walking through the paragraph. There are about 6 paragraphs in the purport of this. And since we have very limited time, I'm trying to constrain this into smaller sections, and we can hopefully quickly move forward. The next para talks about intelligent human beings, and intelligent human beings must always remember that the soul obtains a human form after an evolution of many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration. And I really want to stress on that part one more time, that the soul obtains the human form after millions of years of births and deaths, and the transmigration happens. If one is intelligent, they will get this logic that after taking so many births, I have this human form. But wait, that's not the only thing that I have. I am also exposed to this divine knowledge as part of the Shastra, as part of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and now Īśopaniṣad. This is an extremely fortunate and a rare combination. Therefore, I as a living entity should take full advantage of this situation. So that is what this says. And then further, the purport talks about the material ocean and the human body being a boat. And this is very unique for the Earth planet, because in heavenly planet, it's very difficult to practice spiritual life. Because why? The life is good over there. The living entity is enjoying the fruits of the good karma. In hellish planets, it is extremely difficult because life over there is too traumatic. I mean, the living entity over there has to face so many hardships. Where is the question of doing any kind of spiritual sadhana over there? But Earth planet, at times it is good, at times it is not. But you get a lot of realizations, and with those realizations, your mind starts to churn that you want to get out of this mess. So the Earth planet is comparatively better to practice your spiritual life. And within the Earth planet, just to be a human is by far best, because in human form you can practice spiritual life. No other species can do it. So you have you have a human form on Earth. That's first class thing. And you talk about if you are a human on Earth and also in Kali Yuga. Now that's just a brilliant combination, because in other ages, the living entity had to perform severe austerities, penances, meditation, complex deity worship. But in Kali Yuga, we just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The Mahamantra, and just by chanting the Mahamantra, the living entity is able to get multifold spiritual benefits. So that's only reserved for the Kali Yuga. Now, on top of all of this, here is another sweet deal. With all of that placed above what I just mentioned, you got the opportunity to take birth within 500 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And you got to take birth within 100 years of Srila Prabhupada's appearance. If you really think about it, as a soul, we are not going to get any better opportunity in our existence as a soul to go back to Godhead if we miss this boat. I'm going to let that sink in for a while. It's very profound. But even if you have a boat, and a boat is not in the hands of a captain or our guru, then, and if there is a vortex in the material ocean, guess what is going to happen? You're just going to go in circles and circles, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So Prabhupada says only an intelligent person will remember all his connections and take advantage of all these facilities, the Vedic scriptures that have given to us. Now consider this, the Ishavasya principle says that if somebody is not following the principle, then they are Atmaha. We read when we were reciting the shloka, Atmaha means killing the soul. But what about somebody who, and the people who don't know about all of this, they are by far doomed. But what about somebody who knows about this but yet does not want to follow it? What happens in that scenario? It's like, it's called like a doom of the doomed. Like you know it, but you don't want to follow it. So we have to associate with devotees. We have to do our sadhana. We have to pray to Krishna to send a guru in our lives. So we have some steady seva. And this steady seva has to be without any expectation. Just because Thakurji and Thakurani, they like it. It reminds me of another shloka, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyana krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttamam. Anyone, I hope you're familiar with the meaning of the shloka. If not, then we can briefly discuss it. But if not, then just remember that, when this shloka says about doing service for the sake of service without any material desires. Why? Because Shri Radha and Krishna, they like it. So that is called first class devotional service, or Shilanam Bhaktir Uttamam. So this is what that paragraph talks about, that we have to be intelligent in these times and know what we have. So why then the killer of the soul? Now, Bhagavad Gita says that there's another shloka, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavaka, Na Kledayantyapo, Na Shoshayati Maruta. Means you cannot burn the soul, you cannot cut the soul, you cannot wither the soul, or you cannot soak the soul or wet the soul. So if soul cannot be killed, then why is it called Atmaha, the killer of soul? Now we have to understand that with all these spiritual facilities and the knowledge that we have, the spiritual knowledge that we have, if a human being does not fully utilizes his or her life in self-realization, then Śrī Īśopaniṣad says that this living entity is considered as Atmaha. Such an individual will enter the darkest regions of ignorance and suffer perpetually. And why this, why it is said like that? Because the default nature of the soul is to be the servant of Krishna. The soul's nature is to be engaged in spirituality and to be engaged in devotional service. But if one is destroying the constitutional activity of the soul, they are just not interested in spiritual life or the spiritual activity, which is the default nature of the soul again. Then Isho says that that living entity is the killer of the soul, and that's where this term is coined. And there is an antithesis in them, because there is a shloka which says the soul cannot be cut or burnt or anything, but how the living entity approaches his or her life in this human form, they contribute to either saving the soul or killing the soul. So Prabhuji, I know we are at time. Do we want to continue? There is still a couple of paragraphs left. So are you okay
Sure,
with
Prabhuji.
continuing?
Yeah. Sure, go ahead, Prabhuji.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. So the next slide is about importance of human life. So the paragraph reads like, why is man given better life than that of the swine and other animals? Why are certain individuals given better facilities than those than other individuals? And the answer to that is because when you are at a highly placed position, you have to discharge a higher nature of duties. So that's why, so that's the reason. Uh, that's the reason why it is important to have human life. So there are duties that need to be performed, which are higher than the animals, and animals are primarily engaged in making sure that they are feeding their hungry stomachs. So here Prabhupada is telling us why it is why it is difficult to practice a spiritual activity in Kali Yuga. Because we are in a soul-killing civilization. We are exposed, we are bombarded, we are flooded with an atmosphere and an environment which impacts our soul. In Kali Yuga, the people are just not interested in spiritual life. They are not interested in Krishna. And have we not experienced this, when we go out on book distribution, the kind of responses that we get, the kind of reactions that we get from people. So that shows that, people in Kali Yuga, they are not interested in Krishna in this life. Don't you think that, they are just interested? If you look at it conversely, to me, it feels that, they are just interested in enjoying all the four activities that animal do, but in more polished way. That's just how they want to approach it. Just look around the kind of progress that we have made in the tech and in the AI. There are wars happening all over. And those wars the fighting has become more sophisticated. But if you really look at it, if you dumb it down, at the end of the day, it is still similar to the fighting of animals with their jaws and with their claws. It's at a sophisticated level, but the nature of the activity is still the same. So the danger of falling prey to things that are against the Ishavasya principle are very it's very easy to happen, because of the uh, glitz and the glamour and the vices which have become more sophisticated, which can drown a living entity into an alternate reality from which they don't even want to come back willingly. One has to be very careful when we are using the technology. It's a tool, but it is not it's not the tool that is dangerous, but it is the consciousness behind the tool, and that's more important. Because what stops anybody from going to any bad site on the internet? The internet is just a vast store. uh, but as devotees, we have to ensure that we are discharging our life very carefully. No matter what pleasure is available in the material world, that pleasure is completely insignificant. In my opinion, that is completely insignificant from what you get in the spiritual life. And that is how devotees are easily able to follow the four regulative principles, because they are getting a higher taste than the pleasures that they are getting from the material life. And that's where we say the param drishtva nivartate. So it might take time for us in our life, and it may not happen in one lifetime even. But if you sincerely continue on the process, you will see that the pleasures you get in the spiritual life, they far exceed the pleasures of the material life. So that's the importance of the human life. I've tried to explain that in the best way possible. Moving on to the next, the perfection in human life. So in the next para, Prabhupada said that we are given this human form of life not to work hard like asses, swine, and dogs, but to attain the highest perfection of life. So the essence of this paragraph is like, if you don't want to surrender to Krishna, you will end up working hard in your life. That's just given. No two ways about it. That does not mean that devotees do not work hard. Prabhupada once said in a letter that, there are the 24 hours in a day are not sufficient for a devotee. And I'm very sure you would have felt that at many times in your life, that when you are practicing your sadhana bhakti very sincerely, you feel that the 24 hours are not enough. You want to cram in more hours within that day. I'm pretty sure many of you had this kind of feeling many times. Especially the feeling is very prominent when we are in festivals, when there is a whole lot of thing that we have to do. And then there is less time. We feel that we want to bundle in few more hours so that our work can be completed. But the hard work that you do for Krishna is much more satisfying than the hard work done for your material jobs, for your boss. The bosses are at most times they are not thankful to the effort that you're putting in. I mean, I was talking about the festivals when just take a festival at ISV, and devotees are just tirelessly working for days, weeks, and sometimes even months to make sure that that one day of festival is successful. And they do it year after year after year after year. And I have not even heard even once any of these devotees complain that it's too much for me. I can't do it, man. I've been doing it for multiple years now. I can't do it anymore. I just don't hear that. They are constantly in that state of bliss. They look forward to another opportunity where they're able to serve Krishna in a very selfless manner. The Anya Pilashita Shunyam that I was mentioning earlier, this is that ability, this is that quality where devotees are serving without consideration of their hardship, they are serving to please Krishna. So we have to constantly remind ourselves our objective and our intentions. Our goal of surrender, our goal should be to surrender to Krishna and not be negligent or irresponsible of our duties. Because why? Because we have our anarthas. They are just waiting in the background to catch up with us, and they will catch up with us immediately. So we have to dovetail our mind, our body, our action into the service of Krishna, and that's how we can lessen our burden, we can lessen our hard work, and we can have more pleasure in serving Krishna than the material world. The next para gives us a hope on the spiritual path, and it kind of builds into what I was mentioning earlier. And Bhagavad Gita 6.41 to 43, it says that, a man who enters upon the path of self-realization but does not complete the process, despite having sincerely, underlining the word sincerely, tried to realize his relationship with God, is given a chance to appear in the family of a Suchi or a Srimat. Now, if you're on the spiritual path and there is no diminishing, you have to know that there is no diminishing of your pious credits. And if you remain sincere on this path, and you can be assured that it will remove all the obstacles in your path. But to remain sincere, you also have to ensure that you are removing all the doubts that are in your mind, that are plaguing your mind. Because if you have doubts in your mind, you're not going to make any progress. You're not going to make much progress. So you find a confidant, you ask your questions to Guru, make sure that you clear all your doubts. This will, once you do this will empower you, and it will help you to succeed in your spiritual life. And the having doubts is the only one thing which will prevent an individual from fully surrendering to Krishna. So inquire, question, and remove all of these doubts. And if you, like the purport said, that if you're not able to complete, and and that depends on Krishna. Whether you are able to complete this process in one lifetime or you have to take multiple lifetime. But what is ensured and what is guaranteed is that Krishna will put you back in favorable circumstances, either in a Brahmana family, which means the uh, Suchi, or a Vaishya family, which means the Shrimat, and where you can continue your spiritual journey easily. Because the Brahmana family is a realized family where they are heavy on the Shastra, and the Vaishya family is well-off family where you don't have to worry about your immediate needs. So you can still continue to focus on Shastra in that lifetime. And the thing to remember that as long as you are avoiding offenses to devotees, you will continue to make progress life after life. I mean, imagine this situation that a living entity takes birth in the family of Brahmana. The Brahmana, when the child attains to a stage where he can comprehend, the Brahmana is going to tell him that do not make any offenses to towards a devotee. Similarly, a Vaishya family who is materially well off is also going to instruct the child in the similar lines that uh, do not make any offenses towards any devotees, and that ensures continuity in our spiritual sadhana. So in conclusion, Prabhupada says that as human beings, we are meant to not simply for solving economic problems on a tottering platform, but for solving all the problems of material life into which we have been placed by the laws of nature. So we are not going to have control over the situation where we get placed, but we have to use our higher consciousness, we have to use our intelligence, we have to take the help of Shastra, we have to associate with devotees to make sure that we are able to tide over these problems from a holistic point of view. So that is the Ishopanishad mantra. I mean, we are 13 minutes over, but if anybody has any reflections or if anybody has any comments, please unmute yourself and please share. Okay, if not, then I would just say that, surrender to Krishna and all your problems will be solved. It might take some time, but you're still on the right journey, right track, and right direction. With that, if there are no questions, then Prabhu, I